You're a non-US founder. You've probably been told this exact advice. Open a Wyoming LLC, get an I-10, run everything through the US. It sounds clean. It sounds global. It sounds optimized. What almost no one explains is how foreign tax authorities see this setup. So instead of creating one clean tax position, you've accidentally created two overlapping tax claims. And most founders don't realize what they've done until years later when the damage has already compounded. If you're a non-US founder, you've probably been told this exact advice. Open a Wyoming LLC, get an I-10, run everything through the US. Earn points, you're set. It sounds clean. It sounds global. It sounds optimized. And on the surface, it feels like you're doing something smart. But for many non-US founders, this structure doesn't just create US tax risk. It quietly creates unintended foreign tax liability that is actually far worse. And most founders don't realize what they've done until years later when the damage has already compounded. Today, I want to explain exactly why this happens, why it snowballs, and what the correct way to do this actually looks like. This is not legal advice. This is what I see after the fact over and over again. The reason this advice is everywhere is simple. A Wyoming LLC is cheap, fast, and remote friendly. An I-10, it sounds like a workaround, a tax ID without immigration, a way to plug into the US system without changing your life. But those together, and the pitch becomes incredibly attractive. You don't need to live in the US, you don't need residency, you don't need to change anything about how you operate. What almost no one explains is how foreign tax authorities see this setup, and that's where everything breaks. By default, a Wyoming LLC is a pass-through entity. That means the company is ignored for tax purposes. The IRS looks straight through the LLC and sees you. Now here's the part most people miss. Foreign tax systems, most of them anyways, do the exact same thing. They don't see a US company. They see a resident individual earning business income abroad. So instead of creating one clean tax position, you've accidentally created two overlapping tax claims. Your home country does not care that the LLC is in Wyoming. It does not care that the bank account is in the US. And it certainly does not care that Stripe is an American company. What they care about is where you are a tax resident, who controls the business, and where the decisions are actually made. And if that's you sitting at home running the business day to day, then from their perspective, the conclusion is quite simple. This income is yours and it's taxable here. This is where the real damage begins. Here's how this usually plays out. You open the Wyoming LLC. You get the I-10. You start earning revenue. At first, everything feels fine. Money is coming in, payments are working. You tell yourself you'll deal with taxes later. Then later shows up. The US says you may have filing obligations. Your home country says this is your personal business income. And here's the problem. Many countries do not recognize US pass-through entities. They do not grant them clean foreign tax credits. They do not align classifications or timing with the US system. So even if you owe tax in the US, or even if you pay tax in the US, that tax often does not offset what your home country wants. You're not being taxed twice because of a mistake. You're being taxed twice because the structure was never aligned in the first place. Most founders are terrified of the IRS. They should also be terrified of their own local tax authority. Foreign tax agencies are often much less forgiving than the IRS, slower to resolve issues, and far more aggressive when it comes to retroactive enforcement. And once they see foreign income, they don't stop at the current year. They go back 3 years, 5 years, sometimes even more. All of that exposure comes from one core issue. You built a U.S. entity, but you did not change your tax residency, your personal tax position, or your economic substance. So now the company lives in one country. You, the taxpayer, live in another, and the rules do not line up. That mismatch is what creates double taxation. Reporting chaos and compliance nightmares, not the LLC itself. Now let's talk about the real motivation behind this structure for many of you. Points, miles, US credit cards. But here's the truth. No amount of points justifies becoming personally taxable abroad, losing clean tax residency planning, triggering personal business income treatment, or creating multi-year exposure that will follow you around. You didn't optimize anything. You destabilized your tax life for perks that expire. Airlines forgive nothing. Tax authorities forgive even less. A lot of founders say, my CPA didn't warn me. That's because US CPAs focus on US rules. Local CPAs focus on local rules. Very few people are looking at how the systems interact. Cross-border tax problems live in these gaps between advisors, and the founder is the one left holding the risk. This is how it snowballs. Year one, someone says it probably counts as personal income. Year two, somebody asks why you didn't register locally. Year three, someone asks why you didn't report foreign business income. Year four, prior years get reopened. All because residency alignment was ignored from the start. Now, to be clear, there are situations where this setup can work. If you are already a non-tax resident somewhere, or you live in a territorial tax system, or you are earning small, simple income with no real growth plans, then a structure like this might be acceptable. But that is a small group. Most founders watching this are not in that position. The correct way to do this does not start with an entity. It starts with tax residency. Once your residency is clear, the structure becomes obvious. For some founders, that means forming a local company in the country where they are tax resident. So income and control match cleanly. For others, it means using a recognized foreign operating company in a jurisdiction their home country understands, instead of a US pass-through that gets ignored. In more complex cases, it could mean a controlled foreign company planning so profits, control, and reporting are all aligned. In many situations, what founders actually meant to do was combine an offshore operating company with intentional personal tax residency that supports the structure. When this is done correctly, income classification is clear and everything works as expected, and the risk of double taxation drops to zero. If the US is needed, it's added on purpose. The US layer should be for customers, payment processing, but profits live where residency, substance, and tax treaties support them. That's design, not hacks. The real lesson here is simple. A Wyoming LLC plus an I-10 is not neutral. It's an active tax decision with foreign consequences. If you don't design around residency, recognition, and classification, you don't get simplicity, you get exposure. Here's the part most people understand. I love miles and points. I use them, I optimize them. I fly very well because of them. But I do it after the structure is right, not before. If you're a non-US founder and you want to build the right entity, align it with your tax residency, avoid unintended foreign tax liability, and still do miles and points, but do it the correct way. Don't follow templates. Contact us and set up a consultation if you want to do it correctly. We'll look at your residency, your business, your goals, and design a structure that actually works long term. Because points are fun, but tax mistakes are expensive. Remember, structure first, residency second, optimization last. That's the Jair's way.